Now that we know a little bit more about media queries, we need to take a closer look at how they're implemented in a responsive design workflow. We'll start by exploring the concept of a breakpoint. A breakpoint indicates the moment your layout switches from one layout to another and is usually triggered by the width of a screen. Take this example. When I resize the screen, you can see the containing block changes both size and color when the viewport reaches a certain size. The screen sizes are based on the typical screen sizes for smartphones, tablets, and desktop devices. While many layouts will have more than these three basic breakpoints, almost all responsive designs will feature some combination of those three screen size ranges. This means that one of the first things that you need to do when planning a responsive design is define the breakpoints for your layout. Here you see a list of three of the most common breakpoints. Mobile styles will target any screen smaller than 480 pixels wide, while tablet styles will usually target screens between 481 and 768 pixels. Desktop styles, on the other hand, will target any screen wider than 768 pixels. Obviously, all tablets and smartphones aren't the same size, so you'll need to determine which range of screen widths you'll want to support. Those measurements are widely used and are a great way to start. Once you have your breakpoints, you'll need to then define your media queries to filter style application based on your target sizes. Here you see three media queries that target our sample breakpoints. Although there are variations on the syntax you can use, I want to walk through the syntax that's being used here to explain how breakpoints are being set. Note that each of the media queries uses the only keyword, which hide the styles from older, non-conforming user agents. Because of this, you'll want to have a set of default styles to fall back on. The screen media types ensures that the styles apply to screen-based devices. The mobile media query uses the maximum width media property to restrict styles to screens under 481 pixels, which should target the majority of smartphone devices. The tablet media query uses slightly longer syntax by combining both a minimum and a maximum width media property to define a specific range of screen sizes. Essentially, this targets any screens between 481 to 768 pixels. Note that the minimum width value is 1 pixel over the smartphone query. You want to make sure there's no overlap as you plan your breakpoints, which could cause some cascading issues within your styles. Finally, the desktop media query simply targets any screen size over 768 pixels. Notice that all three of these media queries are using the width property with a minimum or a maximum prefix. Although device width is also an option, width is slightly more flexible. Device width is equal to the available pixels on the device itself, whereas width simply refers to the width of the viewport. This means that any resizing that's done to the viewport will actually trigger media queries if you're using width. Plus, there are inconsistencies in how devices report device width, which makes width a slightly more stable choice. You've probably noticed that in each of these media queries, I've got a very simple CSS rule that changes the background color and some other properties for this paragraph. Now, to see these in action, all I need to do is resize my browser window. Each time the width of the screen hits a breakpoint, the background color of the text changes. If we view this page on a tablet and a smartphone, you can see the appropriate media query is triggered and the expected properties are applied. Of course, to create a responsive design, the CSS required for each media query will be a little bit more complex and usually feature layout styles based on a fluid grid that is specific for each breakpoint. I should also point out that there's a growing movement among responsive designers to set breakpoints using ems instead of pixels. By using ems, the width of the screen is set relative to the device's font size. Here, for example, we could change this media query from pixels to ems by dividing the width of 480 pixels by 16 pixels and setting that to the resulting 30 ems. Since the average device font size is 16 pixels, this is usually a good place to start from. While this requires us to do a little math on the front end, we now have a responsive design that responds not only to the screen's width, but also user zooming as well. While creating breakpoints with media queries is an important part of responsive design, it's only the first step to creating responsive layouts. To create a layout that's truly responsive, you'll need to combine these breakpoints with fluid grids, which we'll discuss next.